Hello everyone and welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm Marilyn and I'm glad you're here. I'm laughing because I'm saying everyone and there's like 56 people here. But I really appreciate each and every one of you. And let's just say, hello YouTube, I'm here. My name is Marilyn. Because YouTube is not pushing this channel out at all. However, I have a very interesting topic for you today, and that's having a bucket list. Now, bucket list means you're going to kick the bucket, right? That's what the original bucket list comes from. But what about having a bucket list when you're old, have very little money, and have medical challenges? That can be tricky. But what about just having a bucket list? Is that a good thing? Or is that not a good thing? And that's what I'm going to talk to you about, beside telling you a little bit about my experiences with a bucket list. So when I was young, way before the internet, I never had a bucket list or thought about a bucket list, but I did have a list. I always had a list, and the list came in different forms. Sometimes it was a diary. I always kept a diary. And as I got older, it was library books where I would get a blank book and put things that interested me in that blank book. And of course, libraries have always been very important to me. We were very poor when I was growing up, and we couldn't afford to buy books, but the library was like heaven to me. It was just like heaven. So I didn't have a bucket list, but I had something else beside all these things that I'm telling you. I had a list, but I also had a weird determination that I could follow my dreams. Fortunately or unfortunately, the dreams were very weird and not the typical dreams of a child being brought up in the 50s and 60s. And so when I followed those dreams, they led me down very weird paths. And I'm going to talk about that first and then help you decide whether having a bucket list helped me or didn't help me or might help you. Okay, so what are the weird things that, weird stuff I did? Well, you know, growing up in a very dysfunctional household where my mother was mentally ill, and that gave me a lot of anxiety because I had to go different places while she went to many different hospitals. And that brought me a lot of anxiety. So the first thing that I put on my list, and this was not put down on paper, this was in my mind, and that was I had to leave as soon as possible so I wouldn't be like my mother. So the only way in the early 60s was to, and especially I was brought up in a Latino household, was to get married. Because I wasn't leaving the house in any other way, according to my father. So I married at a very young age, and I always did want children. I always wanted children because I guess it was for both good and bad reasons. I wanted to have someone, I was an only child, and I wanted to have someone else to love. Bad reason. Good reason was I wanted to show myself, I guess, that I could be a good mother and raise my child the way that I knew that was wrong in the way that I was raised, if that makes any sense. But, so I had children, but I still had this weird determination that even though I had very little money and a child to take care of, that I could still accomplish these weird dreams. So what were the weird dreams? Of course, when I was growing up, I had so-called normal dreams beside getting out of my house married with children. I wanted to be a translator at the UN. I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be an actress. And in fact, I was singing since I was 10 years old in public and acting in school and high school. And I thought I would become an actress. In fact, there's a school called the High School of Performing Arts in New York that I was accepted for, but my mother refused to sign the papers because, and this is really very sad, she said I wasn't pretty enough to be an actress or a singer, and she wouldn't sign the papers. And that sort of led me down the path where I did decide to get married at a young age. My marriage did last for over 10 years, which is very unusual, I guess, when you do get married at 16 years old. And my husband was really a good person. We just went our separate ways because we grew up. I wasn't intending to say all that. Anyway, but the biggest dream I had, which was the weirdest dream, beside traveling, was that I wanted to become a flamenco dancer. Ever since I was a little girl, and they had this program called The Wonderful World of Disney. And I saw Jose Greco and his flamenco dancers. And Jose Greco was actually from Brooklyn, New York. And when I found that out, I said, well, he's from Brooklyn, and he became a famous flamenco dancer in Spain. And he, I think I was like 6 when I found this out. But I kept that dream that I had to go to Spain. And by the time I was 23, by hook or crook, and right now I can't even remember how I saved the money out of the small amount of money. I used to work at, when my children were a little bit grown, I worked at temp jobs. They were really big in the 60s. And I worked at temp jobs and saved every penny that wasn't going for household things, so I could one day go to Spain. And I finally made it at 23. I never became a flamenco dancer. Are you surprised? But I did dance on stage in Spain. I'm a Latina, so we did Latin American dancing. I did Latin American dancing with a troupe of mostly foreign women on public television there in Madrid. And every night I would go to a flamenco show and beg people to teach me how to dance flamenco. That did not go well. I'm not going to go into everything about that, but I did have an experience. My weird dream, my determination led me, or you can say my bucket list, if you can call it a bucket list at that age, led me to experience Spain and good and bad things that happened because of it. Well, I was brought up with a Spanish father, so I did learn Spanish better when I went to Spain. But there were other wonderful and not so wonderful experiences. Other weird stuff. Well, you can say moving to Hawaii when I was 25 was kind of weird. My friends thought it was weird. At that time, people didn't just go from New York to Hawaii with children and very little money. Now I say very little, but I had saved for 2 years every single penny that I could to afford. I wasn't going to go just and be a beach bum. I had a plan. So you can say I had a bucket list, even though my friends, my mother, they thought I was really insane. They thought I was insane. I was dragging 2 kids off to Hawaii. But I'm still here. And I think that because I made that decision, and I made that decision for a lot of reasons. It wasn't only because I loved Hawaii and I saw South Pacific when I was 12, and I did say to my friend, that's wherever that movie is, I'm moving there. True, that was in the back of my mind, so that was sort of in my bucket list, but it also was because I had traumatic experiences happen to me in New York because of other decisions that I had made that weren't so positive. So I did go to Hawaii, and good things happened, bad things happened. I was able to buy a house. I got married again, had two more children, and I was happy for a while. I was really happy. But as I got older, I realized that wherever you go, there you are. You can't really run away from who you are. And the anxiety that I was trying to run away from, it stayed with me. It stayed with me until now. Until now. Like I said in my former video, anxiety doesn't age out. But I still had a bucket list. And let me tell you some other weird things that I did. At 30, I went back, well, 35, I went back to college on a scholarship. And I graduated and I joined AmeriCorps, which is like Peace Corps, but it's in the US. And I learned a lot of skills, and I was helping people. I was the manager of a YWCA, a resource manager, where I helped homeless people and abused women, and it brought me to the path of social work that was sort of my career path until I became a teacher. Until then, I guess that's not a weird thing to do, but I always believed in education, and that was always the fact that I was thrown out of high school because I had gotten married. Yes, that was a thing. Really, really depressed me, and I went back and got my GED, and I was taking courses at what they called a junior college until I got a scholarship, and I had to move to Minnesota to get that particular scholarship. And moving to Minnesota brought many good things in my life too. So having a bucket list of one thing can bring other things into fruition. So that's the good part of having a bucket list. I'll tell you just a few more things that I did when I got older. I had always struggled with my weight, and I was a huge yo-yo dieter, following every diet popular in the 60s, and I can give you a list of all the diets. I always lost weight, and I always gained it back and gained more weight until the time I was 40. When I was 40, I weighed 70 pounds more than I do now, and I'm 5 feet tall, and I was close to 200 pounds. So I decided in the millennium, actually, that I was going to lose the weight in a healthy way. And over the course of a few months, well, more than a few months, I went to a nutritionist and followed that plan and kept off the weight ever since I was around 45. So that was a goal that I have to say went from a bad goal to, when I say yo-yo dieting, I mean these quick weight loss plans, these fad diets, into a better plan. But the plan was always to be healthier at a healthy weight. And unfortunately, the weight that I carried all those years came back to haunt me as I got older. But I'm glad to say that it could, I'm grateful that it could have been worse, because heart trouble does run in my mother's side of the family, and I do have some heart issues. Nothing very serious at the moment. And like I said, I'm 74, so I'm grateful. At 50, I wrote a memoir. I wrote a book. And because I wrote a book that was published by an English small press publisher, I was able to go to London and have readings and try to sell my book, which is now out of print, so I'm not selling my book right now. But that was a wonderful experience. Just writing the book, memoir, was able to get all of the trauma, when I say all of the trauma, putting it out on paper when I was not so close to it. I think the bad parts about writing a memoir for people is that they're too close to the situation. So they're not, they can't see the forest from the trees. So when they write the memoir, they're still in an angry sort of mode. I think I was able to write the memoir in a way that wasn't a blame game or a mommy dearest kind of thing. And I had a lot, I was given a lot of a lot of self-esteem. My self-esteem, which had always been low, was raised because of writing this book and people telling me it was a good book, and being able to travel to London, where I also brought all my kids. And we traveled, staying in hostels and in host families' houses, and had a wonderful experience. And I know that my children really have wonderful memories of that. As I got older, I think my bucket list became maybe weirder. When I was around 55, my daughter had already been in Japan teaching, and she was already there for 7 years, and she invited me. She said, "Mom, if you want to go to Japan, you might as well go now, because I'm coming home soon." And I went to visit her, and I had my teaching credentials then, and I was able to find a job, because at that time in Japan, there were very short supply of older women teachers. People were just shocked that I had just went to Japan. I wasn't really by myself. I lived with my daughter for a while, and I had the most wonderful 3 years in Japan. They came with, like I said, all of the wonderful, what people thought were weird, especially in Japan, that a 50-year-something old woman was going to be a teacher. They had, at that point, only really seen men as teachers, but they needed women to work with young people that were older. They had a need for it. And I had a wonderful experience, finally made some real money in my life, by the way. And I love Japan. And though I've never gone back since after that 3 years was up, I'll never regret the decision I made to follow, sometimes not even a bucket list, but to follow just a thought that comes in your head. Well, yeah, just go to Japan. Why not? Because I saw my daughter I had watched her graduate college, learn Japanese, go to Japan, and so I followed her when she asked me to. And I'll never regret that. In fact, I don't regret any of the bucket list decisions that I made. So what about now? Here I am at 74, right? So when I was 70, when I hit that big number, I started a YouTube channel, BookTube, about books, because I thought, well, I'm doing something big every decade, it seemed. Why not join the kids and start a YouTube channel? And it was really one of the best decisions I ever made, because I met so many people that were readers, but more than that, a lot of them suffered from the same things that I suffered from. We were bookworms. We were introverts in a lot of ways. And you might think, you an introvert? But yeah, I have agoraphobia. So sometimes the only times I go out of the house is when I take a big trip like that. But there are negatives in having a bucket list, and I think I touched upon some of them. A lot of people said, well, rightly, that I'm an impulsive person. And they're right. I'm an impulsive person, and sometimes things don't work out good. But now that I am 74 and I started this new channel, mainly it's almost like my memoir, to have a record of what it's like to age So that's why I say while I age. And it's not all a picnic. They say getting old is not for sissies, and they're not wrong. Especially the last few years have been really rough for me, not only medically, but I use a cane to get around. So I think that's the biggest thing that affected my life. Now I can't make those impulsive decisions that I used to, but I still do. I still do. Maybe starting this channel was an impulsive decision, but I hope that you won't think so, and you will subscribe and like if this content is amusing or helpful to you. But there are downsides in starting and having a bucket list. And one of the downsides is that you're not living in the present moment. It's like what I said about yo-yo dieting. You're always saying, when I'm thin, I'll look better. Then I can go on, I said, I can go on stage and I can do this and I can do that. And for those brief moments that I was thin, I did a few things, yes, but I wasn't really living in the moment, and the anxiety came back and the weight came back. And I think that right now I want to live more in the moment and enjoy, smell the flowers, that instead of just planning to do something big, having a bucket list, I have to think that if I don't do things now, if not now, when? Anyway, have I rambled on and on and on and on? I hope that if you would tell me in the comments what you think of having a bucket list at any age, especially if you are an older person. Do you think it's helpful or harmful? I would really appreciate that in the comments. And please like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope that I'll see you again very soon. And because I live in Hawaii, still live in Hawaii after all these years, and I will tell you more about my weird adventures as I keep this channel on, hopefully. So I'll just say now, aloha.